Welcome everyone. Thank you for spending your time with us today. I am Muhammad Azim Aiman, your moderator, and here with me today is our panelists. So first is Muhammad Khairul Amri, Rafiq Akmal, Syed Haris and Khairul Amri. Our topic today is hot issue right now, which is depression among teenagers is a silent killer. So what is depression? Depression is a common medical illness will negatively affect how you feel, how you act, and how you think. Luckily, it's treatable. So to tell you more, I will ask Syed Haris. Syed Haris, what are your thoughts about depression?
Thank you, moderator, for the amazing question. In my perspective, depression is a common mental disorder that occurred among teenagers of all ages, whether you are in high school, college, or grad school. Depression is also a leading cause of disability worldwide and one of the major contributors to the overall global burden of disease. According to World Health Organization, over 700,000 people die due to suicide every year. Before we get into details, do you know that there are many ways to identify someone with depression? One of the major signs of depression is a depressed person will have a trouble getting a good sleep. This is because they can easily get anxious. For instance, they always expect bad things to happen around them. They always expect bad things to happen to them, even though there's nothing dangerous around them. This leads them to be less productive and unable to concentrate on their day because of the exhaustion. So I believe that depression among teenagers is not something that can be taken lightly in the society, because they are a worthy asset and will lead the country in the future.
Okay, thank you, Syed Haris. As it stated by Syed Haris, by the statistic given, this depression issue is a seriously matter subject that we must take it serious. So, Rafiq Akmal, what can lead to depression from point of view of education?
Okay, thank you, moderator, for such a good question. The things that can lead depression among teenagers is the lifestyle of a student. The lifestyle of a student itself can lead to depression because of the busyness of the students. They keep busy and busier from time to time. For example, in the morning, students will wake up early in the morning and go to classes and in the schools. In the afternoon, they will only get a few hours of rest, and in the evening they will do their homeworks and assignments. So even at night they need to go to the tuition to do some preparation for the examinations. So the busyness of the student itself can cause to depression. Also, as the moderator said just now, the behavior of the student itself, including about how they feel, how they think, and how they act. The teenagers that doesn't face depression, they will feel happy and easygoing all the time. But the one that face depression, they will feel sad and lonely all the time. And the students that doesn't face depression, they will think positively around them, and they will act normally like other people. But the one teenagers that face depression, they will think negatively and overthinking about all the things happening around them, and they will act abnormally and do unacceptable behavior. So that is the thing that can lead to depression among teenagers.
Okay, thank you, Rafiq Akmal. As we all know, teenagers or student is an important asset for a country to take care of. Okay, Khairul Amri. Nowadays, older generation take this issue lightly. So what are your thoughts about it?
Yes, thank you for the question given, Mr. Moderator. Yes, I do agree that the older generation often looks down to the younger generation, mainly because they think their era are far more challenging than the younger. Like they wake up at 3 a.m. earlier in the morning every day. They don't have such a useful technology and internet. They don't think that that study is important, because they end up just doing some farm work and inherited their family wealth. Unlike the younger generation, actually wake up at 6 a.m. This is what all the thing. They just go to school to study and do something unchallenging that has been simplified by the technology. Actually, younger generation are far more challenging. Like they go to school to study, they being pushed to study all time. They need to find their identity, and they need to study hard in order to go to university to get a better future. And something to add about side point earlier, he said that the depressed people, depressed teen, get a bad time to sleep because of anxious. So the major point why people become anxious is because overthinking. So that's it.
Thank you, Kai. So as we all know, older generation, especially parents, are the closest person to the teenagers or to their children since they were young. Okay, Khairul Amri. Social media play a big role nowadays. So how can you relate it to the teenagers?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for such an amazing and important question. So when you say social media, it is indeed true, and it mainly the reason why teenagers nowadays suffer depression. Firstly, I need to introduce to all of the panelists and audience here what are social medias and social platforms that teenagers use nowadays. Firstly, there are an application named Twitter, and then there is Instagram, and then there is an application named TikTok. So these applications have been used by them almost many hours in daily basis. So it meant that instead of going somewhere or doing something outdoor, they spend hours and hours scrolling down the screens and consuming whatever it is on the applications. And they may be good things, and they surely have also bad things on the applications. So whatever it is, they consume the information, and it will affect their self emotionally and physically. I will explain that more because firstly, these type of social medias tend to have their normals, like their surroundings and environment, their lifestyle. So when they try to include themselves in such a lifestyle, in such manner, they tend to create fake images of themselves, like imagery of their life, very happy, have a lovely family, go to this place and eat such delicious food. So everyone wants to do the same things and show how great life is, while in actuality, that is not life is all about. So when they keep on giving fake imageries of themselves, their true self remain in solitude, dismay, and they are unable to express their true self to anyone, because in social media, basically, the norms is all about good things, and bad things are commonly neglected and seems as an annoyance.
Sorry, may I interrupt you?
Okay, sure.
I have a question for you. In your opinion, can you give one example on how social media contribute to depression these days?
Okay, thank you, Said, for such a good question. So I think one of the way how social media actually contribute the increase of teenagers suffering depression is when teenagers try to explain themselves and express themselves how they really feel. These type of postings or contents are very viewed or reacted badly amongst those who use the applications. So in the end, they never able to use the platforms how they want, and they need to create fake imagery of themselves to continue communicate and include themselves in such circles and community.
Okay, thank you for your answer, and a good question from Aris. So as you state, social media is a good platform to use, but the pros and cons will come on how you handle it. Okay, back to Aris. What do you think behavior can be a silent killer to the teenagers?
Thank you, moderator, for a brilliant question. Generally speaking, there are many behaviors that can be manifested by depression. However, I will only highlight the most common one that occurred among teenagers these days, which is psychotic behavior. According to the reports written by Ministry of Health Malaysia, There are many cases of students harming themselves by slashing their hands because they could not handle the pressure, the stress that caused by the pressure from their family, peers, and society. As we know, there's a limit at how much a person can endure emotional pain. Every person has a different degree of enduring this pain. Those who have a lower degree of endurance will eventually break down. This situation occurred when students could not handle the depression by themselves, and when they bottle it for a long time and it leads to a worst case scenario, which is suicidal thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Said. Is it okay if I ask some question there? So, why do these teenagers actually can handle it? Because there are a lot of teenagers in the world, and not all of them suffer depression. And can you explain why some teenagers are unable to keep up with the stress they are going?
Thank you for your question, Panelist Amri. In my opinion, age of teenagers is the age where they're still developing their mental strength and still growing to be more still trying to grow to be a more matured person. So, age of teenagers is the age where they want to try everything new. So, and the depression itself can, if you give in to the depression, it will eventually break you down slowly but surely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your good question and your answer. So back to Rafiq. Rafiq, the surrounding plays a big role too in this depression issue. So what are your thoughts about it?
Thank you, Azim. As far as we concern that surroundings plays a big role in the depression matters. So why surroundings is related to depression? It is because we, as a student or teenagers, we always get pressure by our surroundings. For example, at home, school or workplace for those work part-time. So for at home, our parents or some strict parents will always press us and push us to get some good grades at the examinations, and also press us and push us to do some home chores. So the student itself or the teenagers itself will get depression by the pressure at home. But for example, at school, the teachers will scold them if they are doing things wrongly, and if they doesn't done their assignments. So it also can lead to depression for the students. And also at the workplace, for those who work part-time, they will bottle up their feelings when the harsh surroundings around them keep stressing them when they doesn't do the job or the work well. So they will feel lonely and hopeless. This is why the depressions will become a silent killer and will kill them from the inside among the teenagers. So they will feel sad, despair, cry, no motivation, and helpless. That's why I say that depression among teenagers is silently killing them from the inside.
Okay, thank you, Rafiq. So we move to Khaira Amri. As you said earlier, overthinking silently killing teenagers with depression. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, thank you again to the Mr. Moderator for the question given. Actually, the depression have a many level, but when you reach the higher level, where you can listen to some voice that we call depression voice. Actually, the depression voice is let you to do something bad, like depression voice told you to slash your hand in order to prevent some pain. So if you just treat that feeling, it's actually silently killing you without you notice. Okay, so there is some way that there is a way that how to overcome the depression is. Firstly, you can listening to the music, enjoy the nature, like go to Genting Highland, enjoy the view nature, and go to some island like Pulau Redang. Okay. Something to add. Most important thing how to overcome the depression is you need to get enough rest and sleep. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Khairul Amri. Amri, the last question. Society reaction about the silent killer for those who get depressed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator, for such an important and amazing question once again. Firstly, when we talk about society, it is a very vast matter, and let's scope it down to society, especially teenagers who doesn't suffer from depression. So when we talk about teenagers who does not suffer from depression, they usually have two ways of reacting to those who suffer depression, their friends or those who are surrounding them. So whether they want to be not caring for them, worry about them, or they want to neglect things, dismiss things, and try to not to involve themselves with their problems. This is because they like to have peaceful and easygoing life instead of having it harsh to think for other people's problem. But this is the problem, because such behavior will eventually increase the level of how these people that suffer from depression will eventually kill themselves silently. So we need society to help those who are in need in any way possible. Maybe try to give some good thought, positive vibes, and try to befriend those who seemingly suffers depression and try to have fun time with them.
Okay, thank you, Amri. So for conclusion, this issue, which is depressed among teenagers, is a silent killer. It's a serious matter to discuss, and should we aware with it. If you know who surrounding you get depressed or like have abnormal behavior, so you should bring them to the counselor or the professional secretary, or you also yourself can handle it together with him or her by giving his positive vibes and make him feel better. So thank you to our 4 panelists today, and thank you for lending your ears, and have a nice day. Goodbye. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. I'm Anati Hairina, your moderator for today's forum. So, first and foremost, I would like to thank all of my audience. I am absolutely much obliged to have all of you attending the forum for today. So, for today's issue, is depression is a silent killer among teenagers? It is an honor for us to discuss and debate about our issue today. Well, I must say, the percentage of depression case is escalating among teenagers these days. Many are miserably suffering from this fatal illness. Nowadays, depression is a very common problem among teenagers. Depression is a serious medical illness that negatively affects how we act, how we feel, and how we think. Fortunately, it's curable. Depression causes feelings of sadness or loss in interest in activities we once enjoyed. It can lead to a numerous of emotional and physical problems, decrease our ability to function at work and at home. As for now, allow me to introduce the 4 speakers for today: Farhan, Christopher, Putri, and Kavitra. Welcome to our forum today. So, let's get the ball rolling. Farhan, what is your thought on our topic today?
Thank you, mate. Depression among teenagers is a silent killer. Depression actually starts from low stress management. Depression is actually advanced level of stress that actually affects someone's mental and emotional stability. One of the main factors that I'm going to tell now is bullying. Bullying actually defined as in two categories. Actually, the first one is physical bullying, the second one is cyberbullying. People who got bullied always will be mentally unstable. Their emotional stability will collapse. A study conducted by Dr. David Janowski in 2001 found that introvert teenagers are more depressed than extrovert teenagers.
Really?
Yeah, it is. It is because former always don't talk about their problems that they are facing now. They also don't tell their parents and friends that they are facing depression. So introverts who are facing depression need to open up about their problems. In contrast, the latter are more socialized than the former.
Well, Farhan, from what will be the consequences?
Actually, that's a good one. Teenagers who fail to overcome depression will choose the wrong path, like ending their life by committing suicide.
Absolutely agree with what he said. Like myself, as a teenager, I really do agree that bullying is a big case for depression that kills teenagers. So, what about you, Christopher? Do you have anything, what's your idea on depression?
Thank you, Ananti. I am going to talk about how depression is a silent killer among teenagers. That's what Farhan said just now. One of the factors that teenagers get depression is through cyberbullying. Cyberbullying comes in many ways, but specifically, I'm just going to talk on sexual harassment. There are many forms of sexual harassment, such as physical, verbal, gestural, and the list just goes on and on. A study done by the United Nations University has shown that 35% of women worldwide have experienced being sexually harassed before. I am not saying that guys do not get sexually harassed also, because the world today is a very different world compared to the world it was before. But majority of the victims are girls.
Chris, why do teenagers get sexually harassed?
Good question, Putri. In my opinion, it is because of some people's mindset. The widespread of pornography and subsequently wanting to try something new. They go on to the App Store or Play Store to download these so-called find of apps such as Tinder, Bumble, Litmatch, and so on.
You use them?
No, please. I am a child of God, please.
We need to go through this one first.
Yeah.
Additionally, they will get to know people from all sorts of ages and backgrounds. Once they start engaging someone into a conversation without knowing their background, they will begin to have trust in them. Thus, this will make the sexual offender's job even easier. Once the offender gets what he or she wants, they will start to blackmail the victim even more. And when the victim fails to provide with what their request is, they will start to, viral those videos online or share to targeted audience to humiliate the victim. This will cause the victim emotions and mental state deteriorate, and he or she may take their own life.
Speaking from experience, I see.
Please, excuse me.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what a traumatic ending to the victim. So, Putri, does a family play a positive role in depression?
Oh, Ananti, sadly, one of the most common cause of depression is because of the family problems. Recently, the major changes in family dynamics and sibling bullying can have a significant impact among the teenagers. Depression can be labeled as a common mental disorder, and these problems can negatively affect the teenagers at school, or more specifically, their academic and co-curricular performances. Depression can change teens' perspective of life. Usually, teenagers who face depression tend to feel lonely, unloved, and neglected.
I see.
Really?
Putri, in what way do teenagers from broken families suffer from depression?
Okay, so changes in family relationship, including the divorcing parents or blending two families together under one roof, which both instances can confuse or upset the teenagers, and it will lead to their behavior or being withdrawn at school. Often, we see that single parents are forced to work longer hours than usual, just to make ends meet and fulfill their kids' essentials. That means parents who are busy working will spend less time with their kids, and this can make their kids feel unloved and neglected.
I see. Well, how does your explanation link with our topic today?
Okay, so when they are alone in the state of depressed, with no one around, they start to hallucinate, hear voices, see things, and ultimately they may end up taking their own lives.
This is super sad and heartbreaking.
Well, hello. I think someone started to forget me.
It's meant to be
It was meant to be like that.
Oh, that's true. Anyways, So, do you guys know that something? Around 180 million people has faced depression in this world, plus 700,000 people has died due to suicide.
Wow.
Can you guys believe that?
Wow.
Wonderful.
Oh, that's not wonderful. That should be
Actually wonderful. Population getting decreased.
Oh my
Oh my god.
Anyways,
Go on.
when I talk about depression, the first thing came to my mind is bullying. Bullying can be divided into two parts, which is our physical and mental. So, physical is bullying can be described as hitting, punching, slapping, and the list just goes on. Although they give you bruises all over your body, soon or a few weeks later, they faded away. But mental is something different and more dangerous. So, why do I have to go far when I can give my own experience? It's all started a few years back when I was in my secondary school. I used to be really fat.
Like me?
No, actually you're looking so cute. So, anyway.
Joking.
Okay, so yes, I used to be really fat and my friends used to make fun of me. But actually I didn't take anything that seriously at that moment. And I thought they only having these issues because of their low self-esteem on themselves. So now, when I start to live my life happily and they just continue, just go on the flow. But things change different when my family start to make fun of me. So they start to make fun of my appearances, the clothes I wear, the foods of the quantity of foods, and it's hurt a lot that I feel deeply broken inside. Ended up, I'm closing my door, lock myself in my room, not having anything, I'm not having my communication with my friends, I'm not talking to anyone, being just, trying, the person who I thought extrovert changed to an introvert. So yeah, and ended up having all my negative thought in my mind. I start to think, what is better option if it's not suicide? Thank God I didn't follow my gut. If not, I might ended up in hell or heaven. Of course, not here.
Okay, so Pavitra, you said that depression is caused by your parents, right?
Yes.
Body shaming you.
True.
Sad. Physically bullying you.
Yes,
So
exactly.
how did you overcome it? By killing your parents?
Wonderful question. No, Forgive me. I apologize. No, I wasn't killing my parents. I don't end up in jail, of course. So oh my God,
But you end up being happy.
Your question makes me nervous.
Okay, go on.
Anyways, so the way I took was seeing my counselor because I was still in my school that days. So yes, my counselor was my big support. I talked to her. I talked how I felt, how truly I felt. There's a slogan they used to say, don't lie to your lawyer, don't lie to police officer, and don't lie to your doctor. So I like that up. Don't lie to your counselor as well. So I talked truly what I felt, how I should be treated. Is that right way to be treated? Is it not? And yes, my counselor gave her opinion to me. Which is I should talk to my parents, which is I did. I talked to my mother. I tell her how I felt. Is it right for her to just joke around people and telling my appearance is like that or like this? So ended up we're having a big conversation. She understands me. I understand her. Actually, this helped our bond to get stronger. And in the end, I help a lot of people who've been facing these types of depression.
So it actually went well because nowadays teenagers don't really like to solve problems by having a good communication. Instead they like to rebel, tantrum, and screaming nowhere at their parents.
I feel attacked, please.
Someone has got triggered
Speaking from experience.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, go. Let's move on to Christopher. So you did talk about sexual harassment.
Yes.
So how do you actually settle the problem, the sexual harassment problem?
Okay. Based on a real life experience, not me, please, not me. My friend. She sent nudes of herself to her boyfriend because she thought that he was the true love for her. Even though they've only been together for like 3 or 4 months. Sadly for her boyfriend only wanted those inappropriate pictures of her.
See, man.
Man, yes.
Boys.
Boys. Okay, go on.
There's a difference between boys and men.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
That's where her life began to spiral downhill because the boyfriend exposed those pictures to his friends and to the public. She immediately lost her dignity and sense of self-worth after that. Since then, she did not want to socialize with anyone. She did not go to school sometimes. She just locked herself in a room. Sometimes maybe cut herself on her hands.
What?
Suicide attempt.
Yes, suicide attempt.
Oh my goodness.
I, as one of her close friends,
What kind of
friends,
Okay, okay, go on.
I suggested to her that she reported the incident to the police so that they could settle it physically. And for herself, I told her to maybe try bring herself closer to religion. Since then, she started to read, how do I say, spiritual books, like Quran, because yes, she is Muslim, so she reads the Quran every day. She reads all the different surahs and stuff.
So she feel calmer.
Yes, she feel calmer. After that, after a few months, I met up with her during the school holiday. I noticed that she felt a lot better. She had the confidence again in herself. And yeah, she promised herself that she would not do something as stupid as that before.
That's why people used to say, don't believe in true love.
Yeah. True. Nothing is
True love of boys.
in love.
Man.
Particular.
Particularly.
Indeed, what a good friend he is.
Thank you.
I guess.
I guess.
Okay. So, Putri,
Yes.
you've talked about broken family, right? Have you, did you once experience it?
Okay, truth to be told, I have no experience about depression because I have a supportive family. Since I am the monitor of the class, I used to hear a lot about my classmates' problem. Especially my ex-classmates who once told me that he got a family problems. He need to take care of his sisters for the whole time since his parents are busy getting money. So, it is once in a blue moon to see him eating with us at the canteen, making a study group, or even doing assignment with us. And now, he told me that that the doctor diagnosed him with depression because of the pressure from his environment. So that is all from my experience.
So, are you close?
Really close.
So,
Are you
it's
sure?
okay.
Are you sure it is a friend?
It's just a friend. Really.
Okay, so from what she said, we can tell that she is a very good person and a good monitor. Okay. Oh my god. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Last but not least, Farhan. Do you think there is another cause for depression?
There's actually, I have more than 10 causes of depression, but I particularly want to say about drug abuse.
Okay.
Drug abuse can cause depression among teenagers that could lead to suicide and lead death because of health problems. People who use drugs, their mental and their emotional stability will collapse. Substance abuse can trigger intensify the feeling of loneliness and their happiness will collapse. So nowadays drugs are common, but we need to use it in a good way, such as using in hospitals and prescribed medicines.
Yes.
But teenagers should not use it just for their self-pleasure. It will lead to depression, and the depression will lead to suicide.
Because they can't control, right?
Yeah, because they can't control their self.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with him.
We all do.
Yeah,
we all do agree with him. So teenagers, don't do drugs. Okay, so that's all for today's forum. It's been fruitful and beneficial discussion for us. Thank you for all speakers for your participation in today's forum. So it's been a pleasure to be with all of you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So goodbye everyone. Thank you for joining our forum today.
A very good morning and welcome to our forum. My name is Guan Yu and I'll be your moderator for today. On my right are my four panelists, which is Miss Ashley, Miss Myra, Miss Anis, and Mr. Geoffrey. Today we'll be speaking in regards of the topic, depression among teenagers, silent killer. So, panelists, what are your first thoughts? What first comes to mind when you first hear this title, depression among teenagers, silent killer?
So, for one thing, when it comes to depression, my first thought is that a lot of people aren't aware about the fact that depression has many flavors, I'd like to say.
So you're saying that there are many types of depression, right?
Yes, exactly. There are many types of depression. And these types of depression can actually be separated in terms of exactly what the root causes of depression may be. For example, biological depression and situational depression. When it comes to biological depression, what happens is that the chemicals in your brain are the main factor to what changes how you are able to process your emotions, how you're able to process information. Likewise, situational depression actually can be traced back to your life events. For example, when your parents pass away, you of course go into a depressive state. Now, it's only a matter of whether you're able to pull yourself out of it or not. When you're unable to pull yourself out of it, that's where it starts being labeled as clinical depression.
So, are you saying that different people have different ways of expressing their expression?
Yes, actually. Different people have different ways of expressing their depression, and primarily when it comes to depression, there are those who are capable of pulling through, there are those who are capable of working through actually their depression, so essentially they're high functioning. But there are also those who have difficulty of coping with depression. There are those who cave in when the symptoms hit.
I see. So we've heard of the types of depression. What about the causes of depression?
I believe that one of the main causes in depression, especially among teenagers, would be the unrealistic expectations that they have for themselves.
Personally, I feel that depression comes hand in hand with body image.
In my opinion, the society plays a big role on causing depressions among teenagers.
So, Ms. Myra, what exactly are these expectations imposed upon these teenagers?
So, I'd like to get into that. However, firstly, I'd like to give a few, the definitions of a few of the keywords from the topic so that we know exactly what we're talking about. Firstly, we've got the word depression, and as Ms. Ashley has described earlier, depression is a way we process our emotions and express ourselves. And for the keyword teenager, teenagers refer to the age group between 15 to 17-year-olds. So now that we've got that out of the way and we know exactly what we're talking about and who, the expectations that I referred to earlier, the most relatable expectation I could give you for a scenario where there's a teenager involved would be academically. So there has been studies that shown that teenagers feel worthless and inadequate with their grades, which leads them into this spiraling and which develops into depression. So they then become obsessive over ensuring that all their work is perfect, or they start fearing failure, and they just overwork themselves and exhaust themselves.
So essentially, they adopt a perfectionist mentality, right?
Yes.
So who exactly are these people imposing these expectations on teenagers?
You could actually divide them into two generally. The first would be the teenager themselves, like putting these and setting these unrealistic expectations so that they feel that they deserve to be a part of society. Secondly would be either your parents or teachers, or basically societal pressure. So when society pressures them and expects them to perform a certain way or to achieve certain things, this puts pressure on a teenager and makes them have, which causes them to have expectations that then lead to depression.
So what exactly are these societal expectations that affect teenagers' depression?
as you can see, locally in Malaysia, people don't really know about depression. They don't know what's the meaning of depressions and what people with depressions are going through. So they assume they assume this depression as same as sadness. You see, sadness and depression, they may seem like the same thing, but they are very different. So with this lack of knowledge among societies, they make the teenagers think that their emotions and what they are going through are invalid.
So it seems that the invalidation from society does play a role in regards to a teenager's depression. So what exactly are the symptoms of depression?
Well, the symptoms of a depression, there's a lot. First and foremost, there is like self-isolation where they distance themselves from their family, their friends, and the society around them. And they can get easily irritated, and the feeling of anxiousness, and they, moreover, they can also suffer from insomnia.
I'd like to ask regarding body images. What exactly does that associate with depression?
Like I said earlier, body image ties hand in hand with depression. And this is because when adolescents around the age 12 to 14 go through their puberty stage, they tend to have issues surfacing such as hormonal imbalance. This causes them to feel insecure about themselves and nitpick specific parts of their body, otherwise known as body dysmorphia disorder, BDD for short. Alternatively, these teens could project their feelings onto other people, such as, let's say, having a big nose. If I were to have a big nose, I may feel insecure about that and project that onto someone else and make them feel like they have a big nose already, and just so that I will feel better about myself. So they then spiral downward and depreciate their whole value solely based on their appearance and go depression.
So what exactly you're saying is that bullying is a result of body shaming, and some people spiral down into a destructive cycle of depression, right?
Yes, because from there they start developing things like eating disorders or self-harm, and from that eating disorder and self-harm they will spiral even further into depression, and the cycle repeats.
Would you mind giving us some examples of eating disorders?
Yes, for example, there's bulimia nervosa, which is the overeating of food only to regurgitate, and then there's anemia, anorexia nervosa, which is to starve yourself and nitpick on your weight.
Well, don't teenagers know that having this kind of illness in regards to bulimia or anorexia makes their body image worse in the long run?
Yes, the thing about teenagers is that they tend to fixate on these parts of their body for the time being, like not really thinking about what happens later on. They're very conscious about how they look to others. And this lowers their self-esteem, as their peers look at them as someone so perfect. Sorry. And thus, they lack confidence and the depression increases.
So you're saying that some of these teenagers with depression prioritize their current state over their future mental state and physical health, am I right?
Yes.
So in regards to that, what about other destructive cycles? I'm sure that body image are not the only one that leads towards that. Right?
Yes, I've got something to add to that actually. So another destructive cycle that occurs because of depression, again, coming back to my example academically with teenagers, when they set these unrealistic expectations of achieving goals or higher grades, they tend to develop anxiety because they're constantly worrying about achieving that certain grade or performing that certain grade. Now when this happens, they start stressing out about whether they can achieve it or if they can't achieve it. So now when we've got anxiety and stress together in a teenager, that usually tend to develop into them feeling, them spiraling into depression. So, when a teenager is experiencing depression, they're also experiencing something called blood hypoxia, which is where there's not enough oxygen flow to the blood, which means that they are going to have problems and difficulties with memorizing, learning, or focusing in class. Now, this then brings back to the fact that they are unable to achieve their goals again, since they're unable to focus on what's important, and comes back again to them having anxiety, stress, and developing depression, which is just another vicious and ongoing cycle.
So what you're saying is that teenagers impose self-expectations on themselves, being unable to achieve it, and thus spiraling down into depression.
Yes, and it just becomes a whole cycle that repeats.
So, what about healthy ways to cope for depression?
Alright, so in terms of healthy coping mechanisms to anything at all, let's be real. To begin with healthy coping mechanisms, you would first require a support system. And this support system can come from anywhere and anyone. It can be your family, it can be your friends, it can be your teachers, it can be anybody at all that you find comfort in and can understand you. Now, that's the first step to beginning with healthy coping mechanisms, right? You get your understanding, and then from there, you're also able to even go further with getting steps to getting help, is by pursuing help from a practitioner. And that practitioner is able to give you more professional steps and more effective ways to help with coping with depression.
What about people without this social structure for someone? What happens with that?
Well, when it comes to people without this social support, this support system, at the end of the day, what we need is an open-minded society. We need a society that is able to understand in the first place, for there to be teenagers who are willing to even lean their weight on others, right? For them to trust others, to be able to share their thoughts, to share their feelings. And so all of this actually has to trace back to awareness about depression.
So, what do you think about Asian societies right now? As I'm pretty sure they have a bit of a narrow-minded view of depression and other mental illnesses, am I right?
Yes, I can say that Asian communities has been more strict to teenagers with intent to toughen them up for the future, but the result doesn't go with the intentions. So the older generations in the Asian households tend to be harsh with teenagers by comparing the teenagers' struggles to others. For example, like they are saying something like, people out there struggles more than you, so why you are depressed? You don't have the reasons to be depressed. So this makes the teenagers feel like their emotions are invalid, that people don't really care about what the teenagers feel.
So, what you say is that irrelevant comparison of personal issues is an effect of the increment of depression in our Asian societies. Am I right?
Yes.
So, it seems that time is of the essence. What do you have any final thoughts on the matter, Majlis?
I would actually like to add on to what Ms. mentioned earlier, and also what was actually said earlier about the lack of support and how the Asian culture tends to push teenagers away. So, as Ms. Anna said, teenagers tend to feel more alone as they feel like they're invalidated and their feelings are invalidated. Now, this is extremely worrying, as when you're a teenager, this is a very formative time in your life, and it's also a very fragile time, because this is when you're learning. This is the stepping stone into the adult world. And so you're experiencing new things like learning about poverty, abuse, about violence, and all these things. And without the proper guidance or support system, like Ms. Ashley said, teenagers would tend to go into unhealthy coping mechanisms in order to understand, or in order to just cope with all this information, new information that they're gaining, and how usually how Asians view it and invalidate it would tend to push them even more into that state of thinking.
I'm sure that the hormone imbalance experienced by teenagers doesn't really help the fact that they have depression, right?
Yes, that's also true. It could actually, hormone imbalance is also another thing that could be related to body image in sense of acne.
Yeah. I would like to take the inspiration from what Ms. Mara and Ms. Ashley said, where we have to spread awareness, and as teenagers are growing learning adults, we can teach them to normalize body images. We can teach them a new beauty standard which normalizes all types of bodies to ensure that our bodies are ostracized and alienated simply for growing up with it or having a different body standard.
What about other methods? Do you have any final thoughts on the method?
Well, again, like I stated before, a strong support system is required for you even to begin with healing. So that support system can only come from having a society that is able to be open and is able to be warm and welcoming to these teenagers who are going through depression. And with that, what is needed again is awareness. So spreading awareness is one of the most vital things we need to do as the first step to helping these teenagers to go through and overcome depression. So everybody needs to work together. The government needs to start campaigns, and society itself has to start understanding, has to be more open. So at the end, with all of these efforts, we can at the end be able to reach out and help those teenagers who require treatment for the depression.
I see that depression really lacks awareness in Asian countries. I'm pretty sure that I agree with what exactly Ms. Ashley said just now. Thus, I believe that depression should be more normalized in society, not in a bad way, but normalized as in understanding each other and giving proper treatment, right?
Yes.
Thus, I guess this marks the end of the forum. Thank you.